Hello, quilters. It is Wednesday night in New York, and it's been a full day of quilting that isn't over yet. Let me get set up here as you're joining in. Where's the comments? There we go. Hello. So I just raced back into the studio. I have some delicious zuppa toscana on the stove. Excuse me. Because this was a 3 kale week. Lots of kale. I was really disappointed because I cooked kale last night and I couldn't cross it off the list because I only wrote down we got 2 kales and we got 3. So I have a lot of kale this week. Hola. Hello, hello. So I have a very delicious zuppa toscana for after we're done chatting here. And I had fun preparing, going over my first steps to free-motion quilting. It's a class I haven't revisited in a little while, so it was really kind of fun. I'm almost finished with one quilt for next week. And I'll finish it tonight, get started on another. It's been really great. I've been having so much fun getting stuff done. Hello, Patty Gray. It's good to see you. Excuse me. So, tonight we're going to talk about my first steps to free-motion quilting class. And I designed this class for people who are scared of free-motion quilting. Is anybody still in that? Anybody in that that group that I want to work on quilts on my home machine, but I don't know about pressing the foot and pressing my hand, and there's just so much to work together that I can't get it all done. See, hello in Michigan. And happy Wednesday to everyone involved, except for my friends in Australia, where it is Thursday. So I've met so many people who are intimidated by machine quilting that they're like, I couldn't possibly, it's so hard. There's so many moving parts. And I agree with that, except that you could possibly. It feels overwhelming. There are a lot of moving parts, but there are ways to get through it. I had someone, a friend of mine, asked me about machine quilting, and she was in this class, and as I was first going through it, and said, "Oh, so really, it's just a matter of practice." And I'm like, "Boom, yes, that's really just a matter of practice, but it's a matter of practicing the right things in the right order." When I say that, it's not like you're going to be doing it wrong. It's that it can be quicker if you work in a certain order. Let's see. We have someone who loves free motion quilting and needs tweaking and practice. Well, hopefully you have some quilt tops to practice on. I have more patterns out. We have a fish quilt, all the color block quilts. And I'm guessing you might have an unfinished quilt or two at home. I tend to I'm basting up about a quilt a day. Or at least 3 or 4 quilts a week, just because I have so many. And I keep thinking it's gonna show in my sewing room soon that I'm finishing all these, but it's not. About 30 unfinished quilts. Yeah. I wrote a list once and I stopped counting at 200. And some of these are kits or fat quarter packs or things like that. But yeah, I'm just trying to pull them off the top of the piles to make the piles go away. I'm going to have I emptied this bag or basket or bucket or tote party every time I finish, get to the bottom of one and finish everything that's in it. Does anybody else shove all their unfinished quilt tops in a bag or their half finished projects in a bag whenever they start something new but need the flat space? I'm having some flat space problems in my sewing room because I recently added 2 tables to my sewing room. And they are there to support my sewing machines. So I have my 2 sewing machines head to head. They're in cabinets when my friend was here, we were looking at each other across the sewing machines. And then I have a table on either side, and one of them holds up the quilt while I'm machine quilting it, and the other one holds the pieces and stuff. So I have a table on either side of me while I'm quilting, which is nice. But I've discovered as I was quilting today, and I had the whole quilt pushed over onto one table, that I was knocking all this stuff off of it, that I tend to stack more stuff when I have uh, more flat surfaces. Let's see. Janet, you're going bins. That's great. Mine go in piles and bags and totes and bins and buckets. Tote for finished tops, bags for undone. Yeah, I'm hoping to finish some of those undones. I was quilting today, but I was knocking 2.5-inch squares, my color block stacks, off the other end of the table because I was on my quilting machine, but my piecing machine has a bunch of rows of color block squares that were just hitting the floor. So I will have hubby pick those up when he gets home. My back and bending are not going well today, so they'll just wait. But once you get your quilt done, and want some things to practice, if you haven't gone through the first steps to free motion class, I highly, highly recommend it. So let me share my screen and we can go through the class. No. Yes. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. So this is the machine I quilt on. That's the cabinet that it's in. And there's another cabinet behind it on my other sewing machine. So it's a similar setup. And this is a placemat. The first project in the class is placemats. And you are going to be quilting some very controlled movements in here just to get used to moving the fabric, making friends with your machine and what it feels like to press the pedal and things like that. I had fun. I just watched this promo that I probably haven't seen in a year and a half. And it was obviously filmed a while ago when I cut my hair off. Let's see if this will play through the player. Hi, I'm Debbie Brown of DebbieBrownQuilts.com. Do you have a stack of quilt tops just waiting to be quilted? Are you afraid to ruin them if you try to quilt them yourselves? This is the class you've been waiting for. For the first time, I teach the techniques I share in my sold-out machine quilting classes to you at home. Quilting Essentials, First Steps to Free Motion Quilting, has been thoroughly tested and is finally ready for you. In more than 3 hours of video, over 10 lessons, I cover topics like stitch length, edge-to-edge quilting, tying knots, and 10 different free motion quilting patterns. You can practice these on small quilt sandwiches, panels, your own unfinished quilt tops, or on one of the 4 patterns included in the class. Enroll now and go from "I can't do this" to "Look what I did now." I'm going to stop sharing that and come back and see you because let me find where you are. Wow. Just wow. I look like a late night TV commercial, but that was fun. Let's see. I have some more comments. So we have Ginny. You do need me at a time. You need more. I'm guessing you need more time, don't we? Yes. I was going to say, don't we all, but I don't. I have plenty of time because I take care of me. So I have a pretty easy life. I'm a princess. When I was sick this winter, everyone was like, "Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. That must be awful." And I had to let people know that my life being sick is better than most people's being healthy. So because I'm a princess, so I don't need more time. I just need more organization. Let's see. My UFOs are on hangers. That's a great way to organize them. Hello in Maryland. It's good to see you. Let's see. You do one quilt at a time. I've heard that that's possible. But you're rare and I envy you. I admire you. How's that? I admire you. Let's see, Janet. This class is really helpful doing it by steps. Oh, I'm glad because I really like to break it down into one step at a time and get you the skills you need that you can then start trying other things. See, hi, hope I'm doing well. Yes, I am. Um, the joy of my back's out. The joy of having a bad back is that I can sit down and quilt because my chair has wheels on it and I'm good. So let's go back to the class. That commercial was really funny. So back on the class, um, there's a series of 4 placemats. You get the pattern. The pattern comes in the class. You make your placemats, and I give you all the instructions you need. And we will do different techniques on the different placemats. Another pattern I give is this scrappy tote, this little zippy pouch, and also made with 2.5-inch squares. Apparently, I have a thing for 2.5-inch squares. So this was prior to the color blocks, and uh, I had you practice pebbles on here. And what's great is whenever you're using really pretty fabrics, your quilting doesn't show so much. So it gives you something to quilt that you won't be too judgmental on. Another pattern I give in the class, so the third pattern I give, is this charm square quilt. Very simple, and that gives you something to practice your quilting on. So this is some meandering. And here is a bed runner. And there are different lessons on here. There's continuous curve. There's a precursor to the feather lesson here. So you're building in all of those lessons. Just starting by getting the fabric moving, then stitching around, doing some edge to edge quilting, and then doing some custom quilting. So when you go through the class, you get the pattern. When you're enrolled in the class, you can press the start button and it will start. This will say you need to be enrolled in the class. You have to enroll in the course to unlock. Let me stop sharing and come back to you. Hello. So I cannot stress how important it is to make those projects. I've met quilters over the years who've talked about quilting and gone to classes and watched videos, but they didn't actually sit down and quilt. So this might be a good time to start thinking. I know it's August now, but it could be Christmas in July if you're starting to think of presents. My mother-in-law has those red placemats from the class. The zippy pouches I've given away, the bed runner I kept, and then all the little quilts I've given away. But if you want to go through and make some quick gifts while you're learning to machine quilt, you could be 4 or 5 quilts ahead, 4 or 5 gifts ahead. Let's see. Janet, you use the placemats and marvel at how much better you've become. Yeah, it is good to look back on, but even when you look at them, hopefully you're not judging yourself. You're saying, wow, look what I did and how far I've come. But they were still done and completed and wonderful when you finished them. Whenever I go visit my in-laws and I see the placemats there, I think of all of you because they eat on my placemats every night. She wore out my mother-in-law, they wore out the first set I gave them. So they're using the red ones now. And it's just fun to remember going through that with everybody. Good morning. So hello to my Australian friends. And let's see. Hello. Good to see you. Now, if you're taking the class, again, I cannot encourage you enough to work through each of those projects. There's not interactive lessons on the class, but when you have any questions, join. You can get in touch with me on the Debbie Brown's Machine Quilting Studio Facebook group. That's where I answer questions, or you can contact me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'm Debbie Brown Quilts on all social media, and also my if you click and email me through the page, it'll just come to my personal email. And so I'll answer questions that way. Like I said, the class isn't interactive, and that's actually for tax reasons. Different countries tax digital content differently, and I'm just me. So I am a pattern designer. I'm a pattern writer. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a machine quilter, a photographer, a videographer, an editor, a publisher. Um, I'm a shipper because I pack all the inventories. I'm my secretary. So yeah, I try to keep the accounting work as simple as possible. Hi, Amelia. Let's see. You got through a few classes and you still need to finish. Um, Finishing is good, but don't beat yourself up for it. We all do what we can do when we can do it, and I do. And I don't get everything done, even though I'm a princess and have all the time in the world. Hello from the other side of town. Hmm. Who do I know in my town? I'm wondering, because when I see you, you just show up as Facebook user. Sorry, I don't get everybody's names. Um, so work through those lessons, post the pictures, tag me in the pictures, ask the questions if you have them. Bring your questions to our Wednesday night talks here, and I'll answer them. Because I really want to help you get through your class and get better at machine quilting. That's why whenever I started working with color blocks, the I I tricked people. I said, "Oh, here, join this, and you'll get these free scrap quilting patterns, like this week's scrap quilting pattern, which is back to school, a school of fish using those 16 patches." But with each one, I gave a machine quilting lesson, and I'm tricking people into learning how to machine quilt because I'm tricky that way. I'm tricksy. Let me pull up a quilt to talk to you about because I have new quilts that I have a new YouTube video out this week. Where did I put it? Where are the pictures? The pictures are in a file folder. Alrighty then. So I will share this with you. Here we go. So this is a new YouTube video that's out. It went live yesterday morning, I believe, at 10 o'clock local time, New York time. Again, I don't do time zones. I'm not smart enough. So whatever time it is in New York, you can figure out what time that is where you live. This is a cutie quilt that I designed. It is named Jack Star. I named it after my dad. I planned to make memory quilts out of his clothes because I designed this shortly after he passed. Um, and it's been 9 years, and I honestly haven't made the quilts. I haven't been able to cut the clothing. But the pattern is really popular. It's done really well. And we have another Jack is entering the world. So baby Jack needs, and it's not one of my grandchildren, but in the family, baby Jack needed a Jack Star. So I did a video of how I quilted the feather, which you can go back to the feather class. Meandering, which is what I did in all of this background here. That is in the first steps to free motion quilting. This is pumpkin seeds, kind of like continuous curve, which was done at the end of the first steps to free motion quilting. We did feathers here from the feather class. This is some enhanced ribbon candy, and there is ribbon candy in the first steps to free motion quilting class, and then some more pumpkin seeds. Let me show you some close-ups. So here's that feather with all the meandering behind it. Such a beautiful sunny day when I took the pictures. Monday, maybe I took the pictures. And then this is all free motion. This is done with a gridded stencil. And if you've ever wondered, is it okay to only put part of a pumpkin seed? Sure. I ran out of fabric, and that's where the grid ended. This is not perfectly quilted, not at all. Because it was all done free motion. So not a single one of these is identical to another, but it looks great overall. Let's see what's next. We have all the feathers, which we just talked about in the feather class. These are the flexible feathered wreaths, half wreath, and a larger half wreath. Whenever I stitch them a feather half, I usually stitch the spine backwards so that my needle ends where I'm starting. Then I stitch the feather. And in this case, I stitched along the border, just in the ditch, and then went back and did the other half of the feathered wreath. And then we went into the ribbon candy. You can see here, it's the ribbon candy with enhancements. So here, this is the ribbon candy pattern. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the ribbon candy is up and down and up and down. And then I stopped in the middle of each one to add something to it because I like more thread. And then more of the pumpkin seeds. So let me come back and say hi to you. So that class, that's on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's the latest video on there. My goal is to put a new cutie quilt up once a month, and I already know what you're getting next month, which is really fun. Let's see. Amelia, the pouch could start from a color block. Yes, it could. It could start from a color block or two. And it's the first time I've seen someone put the U in color block in this theory. So I'm curious, does it bother you that I spell color wrong? Because I have different handouts when I was teaching in different countries. I have Canadian handouts and handouts for the UK and handouts for Australia, because am I using meters? Am I using cot quilts or wadding? There's just different words. So whenever you read that I've spelled it wrong, does that bother you? And I never thought of it. Color block was a working title that I always thought I'd come up with a better name for it, and I never did. I could never come up with anything. So that is the first steps to free motion quilting class. Now, even though I haven't traveled and taught at shows for 3+ years, I'm still good friends with a lot of machine quilting teachers. And I look at myself as getting you ready for their classes. I don't know, have you ever taken a machine quilting class or watched a video and go, well, that's a little complicated, and I can't do that. Because if you've never moved fabric before, if you've never started quilting before, you can't necessarily wrap your mind around doing what technique they're doing if you can't figure out how to push the foot pedal down or how fast to move your hands. So I look at what I do as getting you ready to take other people's classes. So this is really that class. This if you've already had some experience machine quilting, I might fill in some gaps for you with information that you didn't learn. But this is really introductory level. I have other classes that are at other levels, and we'll talk about another one next week. But that is my first steps to free motion quilting. And looking back at it again, it's really fun to go back, have all the good memories of working through the class with you. And also, I'm still really proud of that class. I think I stand by everything that's in there. I'm sure I would do it differently if I did it now, because it's been a couple years. I'm better at videography. I teach a little bit differently, but it's really the information I want you to have. So that is that class. Things you can look forward to. Like I said, I'm finishing up a quilt right now. I'm putting the binding on it, so I'll be photographing it tomorrow. Well, that will be an As the Bobbin Turns class, an As the Bobbin Turns quilt, because I'm developing new classes. And what I'm doing with my subscribers is, as I'm developing the class, previously when I was releasing the class, I would release it once a week and talk to you about it live every week. My health has gone down a little bit, so I can't commit to doing things every week, as I just took 5 months off, and then I have some family obligations this coming in September, October, that I'll be taking some time off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to as I finish each lesson, I'm going to put it in the As the Bobbin Turns class. So you're going to get the class in segments that way, and then once it's done, I will publish it for everyone and we'll go through it. So I have that one going, and then I have next week's color block content is going to be a bonus triangle. So whenever you take your color block and make a triangle out of it, and you cut that big corner off, sew that together, and this is going to be your bonus square quilt. So that is coming up. Let's see, got some more comments. It doesn't bother you that I spell it wrong. You just can't type it your way. I don't worry. I knew exactly what you meant, but it never dawned on me that I was picking a word that has a controversial spelling. I'm very used to different ways of speaking and writing from having taught all over the world. Let's see. Let's see. After being a hand quilter for years, you don't like your machine quilting. Um, that is that is a thing. Machine quilting. I started as a hand quilter as well. I've lost most of my calluses, um, but I had to realize that machine quilting was something different than hand quilting. It's like taking up knitting. It's not quilting. Machine quilting is not hand quilting. So I don't look at them the same way. If I wanted something to be hand quilted or hand stitched, I would do that. Um, because there are things I can do with machine quilting that I could never do with hand quilting. And I've won more awards for my hand quilting than I have for my machine quilting, which is weird. I've always thought it would be fun to go back, hand quilt to quilt, enter a show, and like win, and have everybody freak out that the machine quilting teacher won the hand quilting ribbon. But that would be a really fun joke, but I'm not willing to put that many hours into it. Um, let's see what else. Uh, it's a totally different thing. So what helped me get used to it is thinking of it as not the same, not even the same hobby, not even the same skill at all. So uh, hopefully this has helped and encouraged you to, either finish working through the class, to take the class, or to just take out a project you've been working on and saying, yeah, I'm going to sit down and commit to it. That Jack Star I just finished, I had a tension blurb on the back. I'm not sure what was going on. I've had that happen 2, maybe 3 quilts out of the last 10. The thread popped out of my tension disc for one section. And I finished binding the quilt. And as I turned it over and was binding the quilt, I saw that after it was bound, I had to go back and pick out a little area and fix it. And I just sit down. I have my headphones because nobody's home. I'm not wearing my hearing aids today. And I have my headphones, listening to a podcast, listening to a book, and just sit there and work on it until it's done. And I want it to be done right. So if you're working on something and it's frustrating, give yourself some time. Let me see. I have a timer because I actually work for pay. For some people, if I do some computer work for people, and I put my timer on and I count down, and that's how I know how to build them. But put a timer on and stop quilting after an hour or a half hour or 15 minutes. Walk away, get a cup of tea. If it's going to be frustrating, just have fun with it. Do the parts that are fun, and then when you're feeling up to it, dig in and see if you can learn something new, or really try to master that next technique. Carol, is this the same as thread needles, batting, and tension? Nope, we're going to go over that class soon. Let me see. I actually have calendars of everything, of when you're getting what content's coming out. Next week, we're going to talk about the binding class, and thread needles, batting, and tension is going to come in 2 weeks. So next week, we're going to talk about binding quilts. I have some fun stories about binding. So that is a totally different class, and we'll go through that and bring your questions. So I will be back on Tuesday. So yay. I will be back on Tuesday at Debbie Brown Quilts on YouTube at 2:30 in the afternoon in New York time. And I'll be back here again next Wednesday night. So happy quilting, everyone. Have some fun. I'm going to go have some yummy zuppa toscana with fresh onions, kale. What else is from the farm? It's onions, kale, potatoes. A lot of stuff came fresh from the farm, and go have some yummy soup. So happy quilting, everyone. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you again next week.